Hello Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is the Council Minute for the week of November 16th. The Council meeting this week was chock full of important items for today and for the future, and as has been the case for the past few weeks, COVID is the lead story. Last Friday, I declared a local emergency, and on Monday night, the City Council affirmed the declaration and extended the local emergency. The resolution will stay in effect until the City Council takes action at some point in the future to end the local emergency declaration. So what does that mean? Well, the declaration allows the city manager and our emergency manager to take actions so that our response to the pandemic can be done more efficiently and more nimbly. Things are changing rapidly, and we need to make sure that the city can move quickly to ensure that we have the right resources in place and that we're taking the best possible actions to protect the public and our employees if necessary. Now, it's obvious that things have been changing, and frankly, not in a good way. As you know, Governor Walz announced the dialing back this week. This will affect our community in a number of different ways. First, I want to again acknowledge the Bloomington School Board and make note that they took a courageous step by making an unpopular decision last week to suspend winter activities. They made their decision based on the facts and science, on expert advice from public health officials, and out of an abundance of caution and concern for the entire community, people both young and old. They were right to do what they did. And this week's action by the governor to halt youth sports for the next 4 weeks, it demonstrates that they made a good call. Protecting our community sometimes means having to make difficult decisions. Thanks to the school board for their leadership on this. The governor's order to suspend indoor sports and activities means that the city will be adjusting our services. Bloomington Ice Garden will be closed until further notice. We'll also be closing the Bloomington Center for the Arts at Civic Plaza until it's again safe to resume socially distanced use of the galleries and the studios. Now, the community has been following COVID-19 safety guidelines when using these facilities, but the conditions have changed so much that these plans are no longer sufficient. Because the pandemic situation continues to evolve, the reopening of these facilities will be reevaluated on an ongoing basis and with guidance from the Minnesota Department of Health. We'll also be evaluating how we're delivering our services. Many of you probably saw the news this week that Bloomington Fire has been stretched thin by the number of firefighters benched by COVID or quarantine. Other areas of our operations are experiencing similar staffing challenges, and we want to keep our city staff safe. The city manager and department leaders will be reviewing in-person services at Civic Plaza and other city buildings, so you may hear more about that in the coming days. For other entertainment activities around town, like attractions at the Mall of America or the water park at Great Wolf, the order will shut those down, as it will for gyms and for clubs too. Finally, the governor's order will have a dramatic effect once again on our local restaurants. The order still allows for takeout, and I'm very glad that the governor was vocal in his encouragement for all Minnesotans to support their local businesses. We are very fortunate to have a great variety of restaurants in Bloomington, and I'm encouraging all of you to make it a point of community pride to support as many of them as you possibly can over the next 4 weeks. They need our support, and we absolutely want all of them to make it through this very tough time. I want to echo the governor's plea. Folks, do the right thing. Limit your social interactions to your immediate family for the next 4 weeks. Continue to keep yourself and others safe when you go out. Always have a face covering and always maintain that safe social distance. It's 4 weeks that will make a difference for our hospitals so they don't get overwhelmed and have to turn away sick people. It's 4 weeks for frontline healthcare professionals so they don't get overwhelmed, overworked, and overexposed to this virus. It's 4 weeks of limited social activity so we can regain a lifetime to enjoy our communities. The alternative is simply not worth the cost. In addition to the emergency declaration, the Council had a couple of other important discussions on Monday night. For much of this year, staff and Council have been working on a park system master plan. The Park System Master Plan is a roadmap for planning and completing park improvements, for helping the city plan capital improvements, and ensuring that changes and investments to the park system fit into the bigger picture of better serving the needs of the community today and for future generations. As we worked on the Park System Master Plan, we've been considering a lot of information. Local and national park and recreation trends, community demographics, facility needs, current and future programming needs, maintenance needs and expectations, long-term sustainability, and most importantly, information gathered from the community. The plan will ultimately be the foundation for future decision-making, for programming planning, and for budgeting and park system investments. At Monday's meeting, staff and consultants led the council through a discussion of a draft capital planning framework using a service area model. This approach helps us balance needs around the community and to prioritize based on facility conditions, community needs, and resident feedback. Staff also presented potential locations for the addition of exciting new amenities to the park system, such as fully inclusive playgrounds for people of all abilities, skate parks, splash pads, and dog parks. There is much more to come on this. Staff will be coming back to the City Council with recommendations based on the discussion we had this week. In the meantime, we'll be posting information to our online engagement page, and that's at letstalk.bloomingtonmn.gov, and it's there for you to follow what we're talking about and to add your voice. I know that many of you have been following the city's budget discussion for much of this year. This week, the City Council had an in-depth discussion about the budget and tax levy for 2021. Now you know the Community Budget Advisory Committee was created in May to work with the city staff to provide a resident perspective into hard decisions about the budget, about the tax levy, and city services. The financial fallout of the pandemic means that Bloomington is having to cut millions from our budget to offset the loss of tax revenue coming from hotels and entertainment venues like Nick Universe and Great Wolf Lodge. 2 weeks ago, the co-chairs of the Budget Advisory Committee presented their budget reduction options to the council. The options for reductions were bundled into 3 groups depending on what tax levy the council decided to set. Council had a good discussion about what was on the table for reductions. Now, there was strong consensus from the committee that public safety reductions should be among the last considerations, and the council discussion supported that. At the end of the discussion, we directed the city manager to bring back a budget proposal in the range of a 2.5% to 3% increase in the tax levy. We'll discuss his budget recommendations at our study session on November 13th. But here's what you need to know about the proposed tax levy for next year. More than half of our residential taxpayers, 56%, will see an overall reduction in their property taxes based on the preliminary levies set by the city, the county, and the school district. The City Council is most likely going to reduce the tax levy further, which means an even greater number of residents will see an overall reduction in taxes. If you are a homeowner, you should have received your notice of proposed taxes for next year. That's where you'll find out what to expect. The City Council has scheduled our Truth in Taxation hearing for Monday, December 7th at 7 o'clock. You can send comments by email to city-council@bloomingtonmn.gov. You can leave a voicemail at 952-563-4695, or you can join the meeting to testify at the public hearing. Finally today, Bloomington voters approved a ballot question on November 3rd to have city elections for mayor and city council use the ranked choice voting method. This week, the city received a petition by residents requesting a recount of the ballots on that one question. Now, according to Minnesota law, if an election has a margin of less than 0.5%, a recount can be requested at the city's cost. Now, in the case of the ranked choice voting ballot question, the margin was more than that. It was a bit more than 2%, which means that the recount requesters must pay for the cost of the recount. On Monday night, the City Council set the cost of the recount at approximately $12,000, based on an estimate of staff time and the costs necessary to perform the recount. Staff has notified the petitioners of the cost, and at this time, we don't know if the recount will proceed, but we will be sure to let you know the next time on the City Council Minute. That's a wrap for this edition of the Council Minute. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, Bloomington.